How's it going, folks? Thursday, 29 September. This is highly caffeinated and highly urinated Tactard Ted coming to you from the beautiful cab of my truck. As you see here, my scanner. A little interesting aside about my scanner. Mrs. Tactard had to borrow my truck today to get her to work while I took her vehicle and had some routine maintenance done. And my scanner apparently popped over and hit Mrs. Tactard in the head, which earned me a raft of manure from Mrs. Tactard. Rightfully so, though, because she's a good woman. She puts up with a lot to be married to me. I just got to remember she needs to borrow my truck to take all the fancy Batmobile nonsense out of the cab of the truck so she doesn't get hurt. So what's happening today, folks? What's happening today? It's very interesting. The U.S. State Department and many other governments are putting out a warning that you should avoid travel to Russia. If you are in Russia now, you must leave. You must leave. It is terribly, terribly dangerous. Okay, folks, a few thoughts on that. Number one, if you've got the money to travel to Russia, you are probably an intelligent person capable of making money and making decisions. And you're probably quite well aware that traveling to a country in the midst of a war is always challenging. And it has been challenging. And it will continue to be challenging. So I don't think that any adult with the money to be able to spend several $1,000s to travel on the few remaining routes left to get to the Russian Federation is going to be so dumb as not to understand that there may be some issues with travel there. So, what could the real reason be? Well, the real reason is very simple. This winter, when Europe is freezing, you're paying more for food and gas, and people in the West are suffering. They don't want anybody traveling to Russia and coming back saying, hey, dude, I was just at Russia. What the fuck's going on? Those guys are like hanging out in nice, cozy apartments. They got full bellies, and they're able to drive. Not that they drive a whole lot now because they rely a lot more on public transportation than we do. But their life will probably be a lot less changed than what our lives are going to be. And I think that's the reasoning why they don't want you traveling to Russia. Because they're really invested in only telling one side of the story. And if they have eyewitness accounts, first of all, you'll be discredited. You'll be a Putin apologist, a Russian bot, whatever. You know, they're going to throw those immediate disclaimers at you trying to discredit what you saw or what happened. And I'll be honest, I have a couple of friends who've traveled to the Russian Federation since all this stuff started. In fact, one guy had a medical procedure done while he was over there unexpectedly. And he lived. He was an American who, got over there, got sick, and had a life-threatening illness. And the Russians took care of him. You know, they're such terrible, evil, nasty people. Such terrible, evil, nasty people. And I do remember one of the conversations, because he's been in and out of Russian Federation a couple times, is that there was a little increased security at the border. I don't remember whether they took photographs of him or it was fingerprinting. There was something that was a little different when he came in and out than was the normal go of things. So, that's why I think that the West is having a problem with people traveling to Russia at the moment. But, let's face it, we are in a serious situation. Because the NATO Charter, Article number 5, states that any attack against a NATO country by another country is an attack against NATO entirely. And to be quite honest, people, the attack against the Nord Stream pipelines was an attack aimed at destabilizing Germany, ruining this economy, and causing people great hardships this winter. And it is actually a call for war. NATO should be involved. The only problem is that the attacker was the United States of America, a NATO member. So what happens when one NATO member attacks another NATO member? Well, I guess we're going to find out, because it's eventually going to come out. And I don't think the Germans are going to be so invested in NATO that they aren't going to be able to point a finger this winter at their own leadership and the leadership in NATO for all their woes and all their misery. And that brings us to another thing. Now, some of you may be quite shocked and horrified that I said that the United States was the attacker. Look, the scanner fell down again. Boy, I'm lucky I'm not Mrs. Tactard. I'll have to make sure that I fix that or find a way to keep that from happening again. Oh, the joys of filming live. Anyhow, some of you may be horrified that I said it was the United States who attacked the Nord Stream pipelines. Well, quite honestly, folks, there is no other explanation. I think it's really hilarious that a lot of people are out there saying, Putin did it, Putin did it, Putin did it. No, all Putin has to do is flip a switch and there is gas, or he can turn that switch off and there is no gas, and he's not going to ruin a $21 billion pipeline that's partially owned by the Germans just to prove that point. That's retarded. That's stupid. And that comes to our new point of this conversation. The press in the United States and the mainstream media think you're stupid because they have been reporting you news that is stupid and has not made sense throughout this entire war, and actually before. And I'm not even going to get into the stupidity, half-truths, and lies that were told during COVID and other interesting items coming up to this point. Let's simply discuss the current events and work backwards. The fact that they're trying to say the Russians blew up the pipeline is just absolutely makes no sense at all. There is no benefit. In fact, what it would be doing is it would be removing a huge amount of leverage that the Russians had over Europe and getting the Europeans to stop funding Nazis in Ukraine. That would be very easy. That was their deal. They had the leverage, and somebody's removed that leverage. Okay? It wasn't Germany, who doesn't want to freeze. It possibly could have been Britain, but Britain and the United States share a lot of information. So the Brits had to know about it, whether they were involved or not. But the United States really, they're the guys with the capability and the ability to do so. And they also had a presence in the region in the last week. So, sorry. Also, it doesn't help that a former prime minister of Poland, who happens to be in their legislature, tweeted out, "Thank you, United States." Everybody knew who blew this thing up. It's not a big secret. But they expect you to be so stupid that you're going to believe that the Russians blew up their own pipeline. And this is not the first time. They portray the Russians as being insane, as being stupid, as being brutish and reactive. There have been numerous times since this war started that the media in the West has expected you to believe that the Russians are blowing up shit that is totally 180 degrees from their interest. Most recently, they were trying to say that the Russians were shelling the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, where the Russians were. The Russians controlled it. They still control it. There's still shells falling on it, but they expect you to believe that it's Russians. In the People's Republic of Donetsk, one of the regions that voted to break away from Ukraine and this week voted to join the Russian Federation, the city of Donetsk has been shelled and shelled and shelled and shelled some more. And Western media has tried to say that it isn't the Ukrainian army that's shelling Donetsk. Oh, no, quite the opposite. It is the Russian military that is shelling Donetsk. Yes, the Russians are shelling Donetsk because, well, they already occupied the territory. So, hey, why not? They expect you to believe that. And I think another thing, if you really want to be serious about just how much of a bullshit lie that was, these people still came out and voted to join Russia after Russia shelled them. You're that stupid to believe that? Honestly, you're that stupid. If you believe that, I'm not sure that there's much hope for you. You are why there are warning labels on household appliances. Don't play with your electric radio in the shower. Don't try to toast in the shower. Don't stick a fork in the fucking toaster. You are why we have warning labels on household appliances. And this isn't the first time, and it's not the last time, but you're expected to believe this. And some of you willingly go along with it. Because, well, hey, it's Russia. It's Russia. You've never been to Russia. You probably have talked to very few Russians. All you know about Russia is Cold War propaganda history books. You probably think that Joseph Stalin was Russian. You probably think Leonid Brezhnev was Russian. You've got no idea how many time zones are in Russia. You know absolutely zilch about Russia, but you're an expert. And you know that Russia has got to be so far down the shitter compared to the United States of America. Folks, that's not the case at all. But hey, if that's where you want to go with this is fine. But my main point is the media lies. And if you put any faith in the media, you're fooling yourself. The Facebook fact checking, it's apparently all the Facebook fact checking is an overdrive. I'll give you a good example. A post of German police that were arresting a group of Ukrainians in Bremen who were trying to sell a ManPad, an American-made Stinger, over the dark web. I had a video of that, and now it is being called disinformation. Why? Because it doesn't show the people incarcerated, so we can't prove that they're Ukrainian. If you just show people, they wouldn't be able to prove it's Ukrainian either unless they're holding a Ukrainian passport open, and then they're going to want to get you for divulging someone else's personal information. It's wonderful. It's incredible. They also don't understand that in Germany, you don't film other people. You don't film other things. In fact, one of the cops in Germany quite clearly is saying, you don't have to film this. And all they're filming is the lower torso of the law enforcement officer. And the US-made ManPad that was on the dark web for sale. And I got fact checked over that. It doesn't prove these people are Ukrainians. In fact, they don't show anybody. All oh, okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, you can listen to the conversation going on, but hey, no, don't pay any attention to all that. Don't pay any attention to that at all. The fact checks are just ridiculous. And let me tell you something. If it was really false, they wouldn't worry about fact checking it. They don't fact check any of the UFO stuff. Is it false? Is it not? No, none of that ever gets. I could put up 50 million pages on Sasquatch. Do you think they're gonna say anything about that? No, of course not. Not at all. But you go after their pet Nazis and Zelensky. Oh my, you can't do that. You can't do that. Not all Ukrainians are Nazis. I'll be the first to admit that. But the Nazis have a good bit of sway over Zelensky, and they basically kept Poroshenko in line during his reign, with the understanding that if he didn't go along with them, they were going to do very, very terrible things to him, up into including removing him from the gene pool. But I digress. So, folks, there's a lot of you people out there proving to me that you aren't able to critically think, that you're willing to take what the press sells you verbatim, and you're just not very bright. You're just not very bright at all. And it pains me to say that, because I'm the sort of guy who I believe that Americans are exceptional people. Now, I don't know where all this gullibility comes from. Maybe we've lost our street smarts. I'm not sure. You know, I definitely go by the old adage, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Some of you folks with this Ukrainian war stuff, with the Ghost of Kiev, Snake Island, the Russians are shelling themselves, the bullshit about the calling the mobilization conscription, which it is not. You know, we didn't say that it was conscription when they called up National Guard reservist troops in the United States, did we? No, we don't want to say that. You know, I love how the people who are the military experts are either A, on somebody's payroll, or B, never been in the military. And they're going to tell you what. Now, folks like General Keane, you know, a general who is well past his use-by date, that guy's going to tell everybody on Fox what they want to hear. He's going to tell everybody everything that votes or goes along with his narrative. Now, you've got other former military officers like Douglas McGregor, decorated combat veteran of actually saw combat against the Iraqi army. And folks like Scott Ritter, a highly educated weapons inspector, who are coming out and they're calling out a lot of the shit. And yet nobody wants to talk about those guys or their credentials. No, in fact, what they'll do is they'll dig any little piece of dirt against those folks and try to exploit it. Honestly, folks, we need George Patton back. And we don't have George Patton. What we have is we have a bunch of the guys who are being amplified and being played are a bunch of bootlicks who worry about career over doing their job. Their job and their career are not compatible. And truth apparently is very subjective. Very subjective. You know, what amazes me is I put up a post, it immediately gets fact-checked, but nobody goes and fact-checks the evening news. How dare you? That's freedom of the press. Well, everybody's the press nowadays. Whether you're a housewife in Virginia reporting on the attitudes of some of local elected officials and their staffs, or whether you're you know, a correspondent at the White House, you're all reporters. Not one is any better than the next. In fact, we don't report news anymore in this country. It's all opinion. Much like I'm stating my opinion. Now, what makes my opinion less credible than the folks on CNN? Not sure. I would tell you that some of those folks simply read what's put in front of them. And their opinion will go however the wind blows. My opinions don't. My opinions are based on personal beliefs in right and wrong, integrity. Integrity is the opposite of hypocrisy. I really, really detest hypocrisy. I detest hypocrisy where we take a section of Serbia called Kosovo and with no referendum, we make it its own separate entity, its own separate land. We recognize it, and then we bomb the living shit out of Belgrade because we recognize it. Yet when Russia does something very, very similar and plays by our rules, it's not good enough. And that's hypocrisy, folks. And hypocrisy, that's the sort of shit Hitler did. You know, he doesn't want this. He doesn't, you know, alls I want, you know, I don't want any checks. Alls I want is this region, which are, you know, I need this. This is what I need. And then he turns around and with the Soviets, devours Poland, splits it in half. This is the sort of thing we do. We're got to the point where we'll say one thing, and then we turn around and lie, and then what we said when somebody else does it's not good enough. That's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. And maybe I'm naive. Maybe I am naive. Maybe I believe that we're an honorable country or should remain an honorable country, yet we don't want to be an honorable country. You know, I will tell you my ideas lean more conservative, but if I want to be conservative and I don't want to have interference with my life, I don't expect other countries to interfere with the interest of my country. I believe my country has a right to look after its own best interest as far as dealing with our neighbors. Our neighbors are not on the other side of the Atlantic. Our neighbors are not. Do you know who our neighbors are? Our neighbors are Mexico and Canada. And if you want to really have a far stretch, Central America and Cuba. Other than that, everybody else is a good distance away. I guess you could make an argument that if you want to cross the Aleutians, that Russia is a neighbor in the Far East. But most of you guys don't understand geography enough to look at that. Why? Because, hey, you fall for just about anything. Because the news didn't tell you that Russia across the Bering Sea and the Bering Strait isn't that far from Alaska. Oh, by the way, you probably don't even remember that Alaska used to belong to Russia. But that's another story indeed. So anyhow, folks, wake up. Think a little bit about what the news reports. Ask you if that makes sense. Does it make sense? Just like Joe Biden calling on a woman who's been dead since August. Hey, where's she at? Where's she at? She's dead, dude. Just like the vice president talking about the strong security agreements between us and North Korea. These are the people running your government. Aren't you so proud? Anyhow, folks, like, subscribe, whatever. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I'm not worried about being monetized, because once you're monetized, they start putting the pressure on you to make the content more what they want to see you post, not what you want to post, not what you want to get out there. You don't believe that? Look at the problem Benjamin Rich got in, because he had to bend the knee to the Google YouTube establishment and bend the knee to the Ukrainian shame machine. I got no problem. Ukraine wants me to do something, Ukraine can piss off. Russia can piss off. I'm going to do what I want to do. And to be quite honest, as long as I'm not breaking the law, my government can piss off if it's against my beliefs, it's against my rights. No, you guys can piss off. In fact, to be quite honest, everybody can piss off, because that's what it really is to be an American. Everybody can be told to piss off. And there are probably plenty of folks saying, Dave, I don't like what you're saying. You can piss off. Well, you know, that's great. That's your right. That's your right. That's the way rights work. And if you don't like what I'm saying and you want to quote me and you want to bring it to light and you want to say that I'm not, I'm saying terrible things that aren't true and it's upsetting you, and you can't shut me up. I know a lot of folks out there think the First Amendment works one way, it doesn't. And a lot of people think that they're entitled to special whatever. They're entitled to have the police do what they want. No, the police have to work within the law, usually. Sometimes they don't. But that's what it is. So anyhow, folks, you take care, and it'd be really nice if everything gets nice and calm and I don't have to talk to you tomorrow. Bye.